All right, cool. Let's get going. So, how have you been?
Good, good. I've been, things have been going pretty well so far. So,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Where?
Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
It's 6 p.m. here. I'm in France. Where are you based?
I'm in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, which
Okay.
is right in between Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto.
Okay,
So
cool.
it's a beautiful day here. It's about 27 degrees. Is going to be one of the last warm days that we're going to have before winter. So it's nice.
And are the winters usually really long where you are? Because I have friends living
Yeah.
in Montreal and they can be pretty long. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's incredibly long. I mean, like basically from November till about April.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for connecting on the copywriting course.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually
totally.
really cool. And so yeah, let's talk about your music. Tell me a little bit more about you and your band. I saw on Spotify you've been together for a while.
Yeah, yeah. It's been about 7 years now.
Yeah.
Um, we started when we were in university. It's just me and my friend Tarek, and we've known each other since high school, but it was only until university where we decided to create a band. And we had both been playing music for a long time before that. But just sort of with, becoming an adult and realizing that we could do whatever we wanted to do and no one could tell us otherwise,
Yeah.
we figured let's just start a band and see what happens and, start playing shows in different cities and see what happens. And then that eventually culminated in what we have now, which is earlier this year, we just signed a major record deal, which was great with a record label called Razor and Tie. They're based in Manhattan, and yeah, we're just sort of starting now to do this full time and live off of our music.
So how old are you now?
I'm 28, and so is Tarek.
Okay, so you started when you
Yeah,
were like 20. Well, yeah, I guess.
basically we were like 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So it
started
took.
in 2010.
All right, cool. And so
Yeah.
and what did you start with? Did you just start open mics and how did you get started?
No, funny. So that's actually another funny thing is that we had no idea where to start at all, and
Yeah.
we couldn't find any, guides or anything. Like, we're millennials, so we grew up on the internet, and we tried to like research like how to start a band, and
Google
there
knows
was
everything.
nothing.
Why wouldn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is that all of these articles sort of assumed that you were already playing shows, and we're like, no, we just need to play our first show. We had no idea. We didn't know that open mics were even a thing because we had just sort of turned, like 19, 20 years old, and then we were just going to bars for the first time, so we didn't know that open mic was a thing.
Yeah, it's funny because
um
it's similar in like for licensing, it's similar or for any business really. They tell you how to grow your brand, but you're like, yeah, but how do I make my first dollar? Like, how do I actually?
exactly,
Yeah.
which is the kind of the hardest thing, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's pretty difficult. So what we thought we had to do was record demos because we thought that a bar would have to listen to your music before they would book you, and that we figured, if they wouldn't want to book a bad band, because if someone went to their bar and there was a bad band playing, then people wouldn't come back,
Yeah.
which is not the case. That happens all the time. So what we did was we wrote, I think we wrote like 6 songs, and we just recorded them on GarageBand.
Yeah.
And this was back in the day when MySpace was still a thing. So we made like a MySpace music page, and we sent that to all of the bars in town.
Okay.
And they all replied, and they were like, I didn't even look at this, but if you want to play, just let me know. And we're like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we could have just been playing this whole time.
How long
Started.
did it take you to record those 6 songs?
Well, we already had them written
Yeah.
because we knew we wanted to be a band that was playing originals. I think we had maybe like one cover at that time. So I think it took us probably 2 weeks to record those demos, which was longer than it should have taken just because we didn't really know how to use the software. And we were recording the drums acoustically. So we had to set up microphones and figure out how to kind of mix that stuff, which in the end, we probably did a little too much production on it, to be honest, just because it was just to give people a taste of what we sounded like. We weren't going to be selling these.
Yeah, and I was gonna say 2 weeks is actually not a long time because I know a lot of musicians who spend just months and sometimes years on
Yeah.
on production. It's just crazy because by the end of the 2 years or 6 months, usually you don't really care about that song anymore. Like your ears are just
Yeah.
tired of listening to it, and so
That's true. That is true. Yeah. I mean, especially for something like a demo, it's
yeah,
just record it and get it out there. You're not going to sell it. So just get it out there. It's better to get people hearing it, right?
yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed with the drums on the songs I was listening to on Spotify. Did your latest album, did you record it with your label, or did you do that before you signed?
We did that independently, but it was still recorded in a professional studio.
Okay.
So, I mean, after we started playing shows at bars, we used that money that we made to record professionally.
Cool.
So we never took any of the money that we made as a band for ourselves. It always came back into the band, and then we used that money to tour, to record new music. That way, we weren't dipping into our own pockets
Yeah.
to fund things. And it's much easier to get everyone on the same board of like, okay, collectively as a band, we have $1,000. We don't need to ask this person to contribute $200 that they might not have. It's self-sufficient. So it's just better that way.
Is it still the two of you, or do you have a team around you, or because you mentioned
Yeah, we do have a team,
yeah.
but we're still only the two musicians.
Okay.
We have we have managers and a booking agent, and then the record label, and then all of those people would constitute our team.
Manager and booking agent, and you had that before their label, or is that the label that got you the manager?
No, those all came before the label. So something that we found just from talking to other artists that we're sort of in our local area, but we're kind of getting more traction and, signing record deals and stuff. We were asking them like, how does this all happen? And like, what can we do? And they were all saying that it was all their management. And essentially what a manager does is builds business relationships on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So a good manager is someone who's already very well connected. And when we started working with our managers, they were immediately setting up showcases for us in Toronto, in Cleveland, in New York City. And I think if you don't have a manager that can do that for you, then it might not be worthwhile to sign with them, because you need to get the whole point of the manager is to leverage their relationships. And if they don't have any relationships, then they're not really worth anything to you.
Sure. And so how does it work? So I'm not a performing artist at all. I write, record, produce, and then I try to get the music license. So I've never done any touring stuff like that. For your manager, how do you pay them? Is it like a percentage? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a percentage. So managers, you'll typically pay a manager anywhere between 50 to 20%. That's right, 15 to 20%.
Of what? Of the album sale?
Of gross, of any money that you bring in as a band.
Okay.
So that's shows, album sales, merchandise, anything.
Okay.
And then your booking agent is 10% of your shows only.
Okay.
And then your record label is it's kind of complicated how the record label works. They make money primarily off of music sales because that's what they do is they end up owning your music, and then selling it, and you pretty much get the royalty. So it's not even really like you are paying them. It's they pay you for your music, and then you continue to get a small royalty off of any sales that they make.
Okay.
But nowadays, because obviously the revenues have declined so much,
yeah,
they're also taking a small percentage of everything outside of that. So they'll take a small percent, somewhere between usually 5 and 10% of the money that you make from shows and merchandise as well.
Okay.
So that's just because they need to cover their costs as well. And it's something that's kind of like, obviously you want to try and avoid that if you can as an artist, but usually you can't with these major labels.
Yeah. How did you, like when you were first starting out and you got your manager and your booking agent, how long did it take you to figure out you needed them, and how did you find them?
So it took us a long time. We only started working with our managers about a year ago from now.
Okay.
So that was, we had been playing for 6 years at that time. I mean, we knew we needed them because we were reaching a point where when you're starting out, it's easy to book your own shows in bars anywhere. Basically, you can call a bar in any city and see if they have, an opening for you. But it gets to a point where if you're trying to tour, you're not making enough money in between each city to be able to stay, eat, and get to the next city. So that in order for you to get, in order for you to basically command a better price to play, you need a booking agent and a manager to kind of, again, leverage their relationships and get you a better payment. So we knew that we needed that basically from year number 2 when we were touring.
Yeah. And why didn't you do it sooner? Was it difficult getting people interested, or didn't you, was it?
Yeah, there's a lot of competition. It's not like managers and booking agents aren't necessarily always looking for new people to work with. So because they work on commission, they need to make sure that you're going to make enough money so that they will make money as well. There are booking agencies that work with independent artists that sort of rely more on volume, on booking many shows instead of booking quality shows, which you can leverage if you're, still building up a fan base. But generally, you need to be at a point where you can prove to these people that you're doing this on your own, you're making money, and, if you were to work with us, you would make even more money, basically. You need to show people that you're self-sustaining.
Yeah, so you already need to be at a pretty advanced stage for them to be interested in you.
Yeah, generally, you have to be able to prove to them that there is promise.
Have you ever tried with a friend, like asking one of your friends to might be interested in that? Because I know I've tried that with licensing. I tried to get a friend on board to take care of the boring part, basically. And I would pay her, but and she's really into my music and everything, but she never accepted. And I think maybe because then if there's money, friendships can become awkward. But is that something you ever explored or tried and it didn't work out, or?
No, it was never something we tried because, again, you need someone who has relationships to already existing. And if our friends had that, then we definitely would, try and work with them on that. But no, our friends never had any of the relationships with, promoters or any record labels, so we never really worked with them.
Okay, so it wasn't interesting for you to get friends to do what you were able to do, so just to kind of because I imagine it can be really hard on the creative process, just separating that business side where you have to call up bars and set up the tour and all that can I'm guessing that can be really energy draining.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
It
you kept
definitely
at it.
can. Yeah. I mean, it was just, we weren't making enough money to try and have
Sure. Okay.
our friends be able to do that. Um, we kind of needed to keep everything on our own, and we didn't want to put that burden on our friends if we weren't going to be able to pay for them. Right?
Sure.
So,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
completely get it. And so the creative process, actually, I'm interested to know. So it's a duo, basically. It's two of you. You
Yep.
both write together, or how do you?
No, so I play drums,
Yeah.
and so I don't really write anything. Tarek writes he'll write the guitar parts on his own, and then he'll show them to me. I'll sit on it for a little bit, write a drum beat. He'll come back and say, this is really good, or this was something else I was kind of thinking of. Like when he's writing guitar, he kind of already has an idea for drums, but he
Okay.
doesn't show it to me because he wants to see what I would come up with first, to see if there's something different, more interesting.
Okay.
And then if it's something that he think works well, he'll keep it, or he'll say, try something more like this. And then I'll take that and sort of interpret it in my own way and add drums to it. And then for lyrics, he writes lyrics separately. So I mean, like, he'll write the lyrics for a song without knowing what song it's for. And
Okay.
then he'll write a guitar part, go open his lyric book and see which lyrics will fit this sort of song based on the rhythm and the syncopation of the words. So yeah, that was something that I thought was very interesting. He doesn't write lyrics to a song specifically. He matches them up.
I think that's a great approach, actually, because I mean, I haven't written lyrics in a while, because I don't know, I had writer's block a few years ago when it was important for me to write, and I've just never gotten back into it. But I think that's interesting, because I found that when I wrote, like, my lyrics, I thought were really good,
Yeah.
but my my vocals were not, like, the
Okay.
melody, the top line was not. So I thought, like, the music was good, the lyrics were good, but basically the top line just kind of followed the music too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's got a really cool approach to avoid that kind of um, problem there.
That's good. And I remember you were saying that in as far as licensing goes, there's not too many like usually the people don't need music with lyrics that much. Is that true, or not with vocals?
Yes. So it's, well, they do need vocals. It's if you only have instrumentals, it's not a problem, basically.
Okay. Okay.
And one of my friends who does write songs and makes money with licensing, he says that, they ask him for instrumental versions every single time. So it may be that maybe his lyrics are not strong enough, or his vocals are not strong enough, because there are also very successful people who sell songs, in particular in advertising, like songs that have lyrics that fit a theme can be really, really good for advertising.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a problem if you only have instrumentals. That's the main thing I wanted to put forward, because a lot of the times people, are good musicians but not very strong vocalists, and it can be really difficult as well to record good vocals.
Mm.
Whereas it's fairly easy to produce good music, in GarageBand or Logic or Ableton or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
instrumentals. If you only have instrumentals, that's actually fine. You don't need anything else.
Right. Yeah, that's something that we've found too, is that every time we're pitched for licensing, we always have to provide instrumentals, because we didn't have instrumentals for some of our songs, and we had to go back to the engineer and ask them to remix without vocals,
Yeah.
just so that we could pitch for this. And I mean, we ended up getting the placement, so it was really good. We found that how they use it is, usually they're using the instrumentals version when someone is speaking
Yeah.
on camera, so that the lyrics with the song aren't muddying up what this person is trying to say. But then sometimes, you know, when there's no one speaking, they play the lyrics. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense. And actually, for the licensing, did you when did you get one or several placements?
We've had several. Yeah, we've had several.
And have you pitched those yourself? How did you find the opportunities? Was it people coming to you, or?
Yeah, there was a relationship that we built earlier on in our career. There was someone who was managing us for a while who knew a licensing agency out in LA, and they primarily pitch to television shows. They do movies and stuff as well, but it's mostly TV. And it's kind of like the libraries that you work with, except we have like a specific agent who works with our stuff. So there's a library, but when a potential client comes in and says, you know, this is the sort of thing that we're looking for this placement, our agent can say, well, I have this band who I think would work well. Like, it's just nice because there's no, excuse me, it's not a library that someone walks into and has 10,000 options.
Yeah.
They have someone who's tailoring just for your experience, which works well for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so that's how we got those.
And do you have an exclusive deal with them, or is it
no?
Not? So
no, it's not exclusive, which is obviously, you know, it's great when it works out that way. But as you know, usually non-exclusive deals don't have as good of a cut. But a lot of these professional studios, in order to compete, are actually offering pretty good cuts. So I think ours is 25%.
Okay.
Is what we give them. So I think that's pretty good for a non-exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing though with what those sort of agencies look for, it's totally different, I think, between what I am pitching and what you are pitching, just because there's a show that would want music that's sort of like, I don't know how to put this. They're trying to almost promote bands that are touring and performing, and that's a much smaller niche. Whereas you are operating in a market that's much larger, because there are people that are just looking for music. It doesn't matter who's playing it.
Sure.
Whereas the sort of music that we're pitching, if we were to stop playing as a band, then no one would be interested in the music anymore, because for whatever reason, television shows like to play bands that are, you know, sort of relevant in the moment. And a lot of actual shows will show you in the bottom corner who is playing right now. So they're almost like acting as a playlist on top of a TV show. And because of that, it makes our niche smaller, because they're looking for always more relevant bands, whereas your circle is bigger. Anyone can sort of fill it. Obviously, that means more people are going to be competing, which can also be difficult. But it's nice to just be able to throw music at someone and say, you can put this anywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Monday Night Football. Yeah. It's so yeah, in the US there's 3 nights for three nights for football. There's Thursday. Thursday there's usually one game. Sundays there's many games, and then there's 2 or 1 games on Monday night. So that's a really big placement, because anyone who's a football fan is watching that one game. And so that was good. We had that last year. We had our song playing in commercials for like the next week's game. And then 2 years ago, we had our song actually in the game, which was really neat, because my bandmate and I actually played high school football together. So that was actually really cool to have it in that. But other than that, it was just TV shows. There's a show called Suits
Oh,
That's
nice.
kind of a bigger show. Yeah. Parks and Recreation was another one that was good to have it in.
I love that
Um,
one.
yeah, and the nice thing about those shows is that people are really into the music in the show Suits specifically. So
Yeah.
if you go on Spotify and you type in Suits, there's like 10 playlists that are like Suits soundtrack. And
Okay.
so our music is on there, which leads to more people listening to it and more people coming back and creating fans in that way.
So that's what you meant by TV shows that are looking for indie artists. Like Suits is, they know that their audience enjoys the music a lot, so they cater to that audience and make
Yes.
sure. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But I mean, they also have like original compositions that are just made for the show specifically,
Yeah, sure.
or that are, not necessarily a band. They would just be an artist like yourself who's creating music and selling it for certain situations, like usually transitioning the scenes and stuff. But yeah, they are definitely a show that's looking for a relevant
Yeah.
artist. The way that we approach that, I mean, every band does it differently, and
Sure.
that's fine. But the way that we approach it is like we have a business that we are both 50% owners of, so that any money that comes in is just gets split 50
Okay.
50. Just because we sort of both recognize that there's more to what we're doing than just writing.
Sure.
Whereas I think someone in your situation is like, writing is almost 100% of what the business is composed of. So the writer should get, more money basically. But the way that we're doing things like doing promotion on the side and doing interviews and all these things. But the only way that money comes in is through music. So we kind of have to split it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't really have a living.
No, and I think it's
So,
really good because I mean, obviously every band has to make that decision for themselves, but um from what I hear and see and read, it seems that the bands that split 50-50 last longer.
yeah, that makes sense. That
You
I
know,
could see
it's
that for sure. Yeah.
there's no argument for every single note that someone adds. It's just
Yep.
it
I
makes more
mean,
sense. I think I don't know, it seems healthier to me.
yeah, usually if the band isn't doing that, then the other people aren't really in the band. So what I mean by that, there's an artist that we know who writes all of the songs. Um, he doesn't record everything, but he pays for session musicians to come along with him. So
Yeah.
he is the sole owner of the business. And then say for every show, he has a bass player and a drummer. He pays them each, say, like $200 a night. Um, but if he loses money on the show, he still pays them $200 a night. If he makes $10,000, he still pays them $200 a night. So it just sort of keeps them at an arm's length. And it's like, I'm paying you no matter what. If it's a bad night or if it's a good night, you're getting
Yeah.
the same amount of money. And then that way, that's sort of keeping everyone happy because it's fair. So
Sure.
that would be one way that you could do it if you were writing the songs on your own.
It sounds like it's a lot of effort, you know.
It is. No,
Yeah.
everything that you're imagining is absolutely right, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So if it's not something, and that was something that we learned early on. We did our first few. We did a couple of tours on our own out to Eastern Canada.
Yeah.
So that would be, I mean, from where we live out to Eastern Canada, I think it was like 24-hour drive or something. And we're playing shows in a couple of cities along the way, but Canada's so large that the cities are spread out. It takes almost at least 4 hours to get to every city.
Yeah.
um, and by the end of that tour, we were like carrying our duffel bags and like bringing in an air mattress to sleep on someone's couch and like someone's floor, and we were just like, what are we doing? Like, this sucks, right? this isn't fun. And then we go to the show that night and there's like 4 people there. And so, it doesn't really feel worth it. But if it's something that you want to do professionally, you actually have to go through that point, because going back to what we were saying earlier about, managers and booking agents want to work with you, they almost see that as a rite of passage. And if you don't go through that, then they figure that you're not, willing enough to get to the point where you're going to be making a lot of money. Because for every band that doesn't want to do that, there's someone who does. And so they would rather just work with that person who's willing to do that. But I mean, just to force yourself to try and do that is awful. Like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Then, like, you can be a professional musician like you are without having to, be uncomfortable and be miserable on the road. And you're right, it's cold. And you're eating like crap. You have nothing good to eat, and you're sleeping in a car or on a floor, and it's not fun. I can't say it's fun. So.
And in my world, that's when you have to write, when you have to score a movie for free for, for a student or someone who's just starting out, and they have that vision, that artistic vision, and you're like, what what vision?
Exactly.
I guess that's where I pay my dues.
There you go. Exactly. Same sort of thing.
And so what's good about it? Like, I imagine the feeling on stage must be thrilling when it's a good show.
It's amazing, for sure. And that definitely makes it all worth it. But at the same time, there are good shows along the way too. So recently we've been playing a lot of music festivals, and music festivals have a large budget. So you get there, they pay for a hotel room. They usually, give you either meals or money for meals. And then they pay very well on top of that, like a few $1,000s. So it's nice to be able to have those shows in between when you're playing what we would call a club gig, where you're just playing a bar. And those kind of make it worth it. And then just the whole time you're sort of understanding that you're building an audience, you're building something bigger. And that's what you need to kind of focus on to get through it.
What do you do during shows to build the audience?
There's nothing in particular. It's more of when you're playing these sort of touring shows, you're usually with another band that has an audience, and you're opening for them. So this band that would have an audience, say throughout the northeastern United States, you would play the first set, and then their audience would already be there. You're playing your songs. I mean, we have a fairly energetic live show. And then you're just hoping that some of these people would like your music. And then the next time you come through, they'll come see you again, and they'll buy your music, and they'll buy your merchandise. So it's more just like, if you're a touring musician, you have to think about it as like a traveling salesman, where your show is just basically one huge advertisement for your products, which is your music and your merchandise and your ticket sales for the next time you're in town.
So I guess the number one thing is finding the right people to open for.
Yep.
But then when you're there, how do you do you already sell for the next show? Or do you just hope that people will remember your name, that you'll make enough of an impression?
What we do, we have like an email list sign up sheet. And then we're collecting emails there, and then we have like an email list. And then anytime we go on tour, we'll do like an email blast telling people that we're going on tour and these are our dates. Basically, how the sort of skills that you learn from learning sales works in the music industry. So, I mean, for us as a touring band, I realize that as soon as you're done playing your set, you have a very small window, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, that people are going to be interested in your merchandise, especially when you're an opening band, because between say like 15 to 30 minutes after you were done playing, the next band is going to be going on. And usually when you're opening, that's the band that people are interested in seeing the most.
Yep.
So they'll take 5 minutes after you're done playing to maybe go check out your merch booth to buy a t-shirt or a CD. But after that, they're just going to be going back to watch the band that they came here to see. So that is a crucial time period where you need to be at your merchandise booth trying to get people to buy things that they're interested in. And then from there, you can just use basic sales techniques to sort of keep people interested and to buy more things. If, usually a good one is like, if someone is looking at one of our CDs, I'll tell them that, we have 2 other CDs and I'll sell them both to you for $5 additional instead of 10 if you are really interested. And usually they'll take you up on that. But just sort of, it's funny how many other areas of traditional business apply to music that can help you in your career.
What's the merch product that works the best? Is it the CDs, or do you have t-shirts as well? Or
typically people are interested in t-shirts. People will buy CDs if they really like the music because it's almost like a memento for them. Just sort of a keepsake that they want something to hold on to that, represents the music. But typically t-shirts are the best. Most people don't even have CD players anymore at all. We don't have vinyl, but vinyl records outsell CDs by a lot. And it's because, people sort of are getting back into the tradition of, putting the record on the table and like using the needle to start the music and then having to flip it through halfway. It sounds annoying, but they like that sort of engagement in the music. And most vinyl records come with a digital download code as well. We're going to have vinyl soon. We just sort of signed with this record label very recently. Vinyl's very expensive to print. I know that a lot of independent musicians, they pay almost $15 per vinyl record just to have it. And then you're only selling it for $20. So you're only making $5 off of each sale. And you need to sell a lot of copies to break even, right? So it's really tough. And that was a reason why we never had vinyl records, because we didn't know if we were going to be able to, we thought we would lose money on them, which we probably would have. One thing that was really good for us was Bandcamp. I don't know if you know that website, Bandcamp. So we put all of our music on there for free before we signed a record deal. Just because we wanted to, get people to listen to it and to hear it. But we also included the pay what you can option. And so a lot of the times people would throw us a few bucks, or some people would, do the same thing that you were doing. They really liked the music. They wanted to support it. So they would just give us $10, which is the typical, what we would sell an album for would be $10, which works even better because if you're getting it digitally, then we don't have to pay for the CD.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So it's even better to sell digital because you make a bigger margin. I would say if you're starting off in an original band, keep everything in the band like we had spoken of before. Everything that you make, use that to pay for your expenses, because for the first 5 years, your expenses are going to be higher than your income. And until you get something like a placement or you start licensing your music, you're not going to be able to, basically, if you keep the money for yourself, you're going to end up putting it back anyway.
In fact, how did that work? Did you open a joint bank account? And and anything you receive in cash or check or whatever, you just put in there.
Right.
All right, cool.
Yeah. And then that's how we pay for everything. And as far as, budgeting goes, we had just sort of realized that we put out our own demos first, and we knew, okay, we want to sell something. We want to create something professional so that we can sell it.
Yeah.
So we just sort of budgeted, say, $2,000 because we had spoken to different studios in the area and we knew that that was how much it was going to cost. And so, we waited until we got to a point where we had that much money. Then we went into the studio and recorded. Then we were building up some more money, and then we printed CDs. And then you start selling that and you make even more money. So it just sort of snowballs on itself, but you have to be smart enough to invest it.
So you don't do any sort of, you don't look at spreadsheets and try to forecast what you're going to make for the year. You just kind of...
No, it's so difficult because it depends on how many shows you're playing, and it's hard to predict how well your albums are going to sell or how much money you're going to make off Spotify, say. Yeah. It's just, all of it happens so fast that it's hard to predict in advance. Like, if we were to go on a big tour, we would only really know maybe 8 weeks ahead of time that was going to happen. So it's hard to predict how much you're going to bring in. Yeah.
In terms of income stream, is it like licensing, merch, album sales, and royalty?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what it's like. Licensing is always huge because it's just, they're willing to pay so much money. It's probably actually licensing shows, merchandise,
yeah.
and then royalties. I mean, to be honest, we're not really expecting anything to come from royalties because yeah, I mean, the way that the record label system works is they give you an advance in sales. So let's just say, for example, this isn't what we got, but like, for example, if a band gets $50,000 for their first album and the record company tells them you're going to be making 30% royalties off of that. So then you have to do, I'll bring up my calculator quickly. So 50,000 divided by 0.3, you'd have to sell $166,000 worth of albums just to break even.
Yeah.
So that's a lot, especially today when you're, like we said, you're only making about $3,000 per, or what did we say it was? How much per million?
On Spotify, it's $3,000 every million plays on Spotify. And then you mentioned, and another friend confirmed that after that it goes downhill.
Yeah. So I think we have like 3 million streams or something. And then we did 3,000 on the first million, and then about 2,000 on the second, and then 2,000 on this third million. And then it keeps going down from there. So, for someone like Drake, who has like however many hundreds of millions of streams, it wouldn't just be like, 3,000 per million, because Spotify would have no money.
Yeah, that's
because he has that many, right?
Yeah.
I think if there was someone who was sort of in my shoes 5 or 6 years ago, I would have just said to, keep focusing on playing more shows. That's if you're deciding to go the route that we are, as opposed to the route that you're going, play more shows is the advice that I would give. For someone like you, it would be write more music.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need to do. For someone in my position, it's, write fewer songs, make them as good as you can get them, and play more shows. But sort of the reasoning behind that is because that's how you develop your relationships, is by getting out there and meeting people and showing people your music. That's how we got our placements in all of these TV shows, was because we played a show in Toronto. Someone really liked our music, who was well connected. We started working with them. Then that's how we met the licensing agency in Los Angeles. They pitched all of our music. And then our managers found us through Spotify. But they would have never found us through Spotify if we didn't have our song in Suits. And if we would have had our song in Suits if we never met this individual in Toronto, which we only played a show there. So you just have to play shows and get yourself out there and start meeting people if you want to do it the traditional band way.
Yeah, and I mean, writing for licensing, writing a lot of songs is the way I went, because that's what my first mentor told me, that I needed like 100 or 200 songs.
Okay.
Nowadays, you know, you have people saying you need 1,000 songs.
That's so
It's
many.
really,
That is so many.
but I have I connected it with a musician who actually makes a living licensing music with only 37 songs.
Wow. Okay.
And he writes kind of hillbilly type music, so it's a bit of a niche.
Yeah.
Every time someone's looking for hillbilly, they land on him. I mean, I have low production costs. I can do everything
Hmm.
myself. I can mix, I can master, or if I want someone else to have a look at it, I can ask friends to mix it and master it. So I can do that really, really easily. But there are also, you know, for singer-songwriters, it's harder. So to them, instead of, you know, asking them to focus on making more music, I say something similar than what you said, instead, but it's not playing more shows, it's sending their music to more people.
Yeah.
So it's just sending, you know, once you've set up 20 songs on the library, let's say, you know, they only have 20 songs, once you've set those songs up really well with the keywords, the descriptions in one library, then go and do it in another library, and then another, and then another, because as long as you're signing non-exclusive deals, you're fine. And
Hmm.
so, um, so yeah, getting out there and connecting with more and more people is also super applicable to licensing. My version of
Yeah. It's
doing more shows will be getting in touch with more filmmakers and
yeah. The thing that turns off a lot of people is now there's someone else you have to pay, and now your revenues are decreasing even further. Um, you know, signing on to give someone 20% when you're already giving the agency 25%. So now you're only at 65 for yourself or 55 for yourself. But the way that we see it is you need to have a smaller slice of a bigger pie,
yeah,
instead of having all of a small pie. You get, more
yeah,
that way. So I would rather have, 10% of $100,000 than have 100% of $500, right?
yeah. No,
So
absolutely. And management is it's definitely, at the beginning when I was just starting out, I was obsessed with getting management, but I didn't really have the profile. Uh,
exactly.
but now it's true, I've kind of forgotten about it, and you make a really good point. And again, my mentor, when I first started out, he had an agent who basically got him all his he specialized in trailer music, and he wasn't doing any of the boring stuff. It was his agent just taking care of that,
Yeah,
and that's a
exactly.
really sweet deal. You make a good point, actually. I hadn't thought of that for this year, but now I'm probably
Yeah,
in a position where I could do that.
yeah, I mean, you definitely, if you have that many songs and you've done
Yeah,
it for this long, you're proving, and you're making money. So you're proving to people that, look, you don't have to put in a ton of work before you start making money. It's like, if you work with me and we start pitching things, we're going to get money right away. And I think that's very important, because people don't want to have to spend, 1,000 hours working on you before they start to make $20 per placement.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
like, we need to hit the ground running in order for my time to be worth it. So now you have built yourself to that point, and I think that would be something that's valuable.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Thanks,
Hmm.
Justin.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's good.
Cool.
I'm glad I could help. Spotify is always great. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's one of those things where, like I said, it doesn't really matter to us as long as someone's listening to the music. That's good. We know we're not probably going to make that much money on the music. So if you see us coming through your town, if you came to a show, that would be awesome. But you can, yeah, listen to us on Spotify. There's also a couple of apps one's called Songkick,
Yeah.
and the other one is called Bands in Town. And
Nice.
both of those, you build a profile of artists that you like, and whenever they're going on tour nearby, the app lets you know
Is that
that, like,
for
hey, this band is coming out.
is that all over the world, or Canada and
Yeah,
the US, or all over the
all
world?
over. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think the better one is called Songkick, just one word, Songkick. And so if we were ever to go on tour around your town, it would say, you know, the Blue Stones are coming to town on this date, and then you'll
Nice.
automatically get notified, just so that you don't have to sort of keep on track of who's coming into town.
Sure. And your website is the Blue Stones Music.
thebluestonesmusic.com.
Okay, you're on Bandcamp. Are you active on Twitter and Facebook, or is that a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
time? Or
yeah.
yeah.
Twitter and Facebook, yeah, we're always on there. If you need to get in contact with us, it's the best way to get in contact. And then we usually just post about like our shows on there.
All right, cool. Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really
yeah,
appreciate it. And
of course.
it's really cool to see behind the scenes of a touring band, and especially in Canada, you must be so cold.
Oh yeah, it gets very cold. It gets very cold. That's why we like to go to
Yeah.
the US so much. We
Oh
like to
yeah.
go down south, right? So
All right. Thanks a lot,
totally.
Justin. Thanks for your
Yeah,
time,
thank you very much.
and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks,
Bye.
Joyce. Bye.